I think Joe Rogan, he's blaming Justin Trudeau correctly here, but what Joe Rogan might be missing is that Canada has a big culture problem.
Communist shithole in Canada.
Yeah.
It's cold. You get real cold water.
When's the last time you've been up there?
I don't go up there anymore.
You refuse, right?
Yeah, I just fucking what they've done up there, what they did with the trucker rally, and what Trudeau's doing with guns, and what they're trying to clamp down on censorship on the internet. That guy can eat shit. Like that place needs 100% an overhaul of government. Like they're sliding down that dangerous road of communism that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's funny because even though I'm in Canada, it seems like the prevalence of political information and media is so much lesser than what goes on in the States because it's just far more interesting. But even the alternatives that I'm aware of on the political, side of things that are trying to, get Trudeau out and replace him, not much better from my understanding.
Correct. 100% correct. First, Rogan is correct on the, needs an overhaul. We do, because everything that comes out from Justin Trudeau is seemingly to destroy the country. And then you've got the NDP, the far left party in the country. Everything they say is Trudeau's bad. We can make it better just by taxing people more and having more government programs. And they say that, but also they officially side with Trudeau in their little coalition they've got going there. So they're complete and obvious liars and run by a guy who says how bad rich people are all the time, caught with fancy handbags driving sports cars. Then you got the conservatives who are a bit better. I think life under them would be a bit better, but they're afraid of Twitter responses. They're afraid to say, men shouldn't be in women's sports. They're afraid to say we need drastically fewer immigrants. They're afraid to say all the important things that matter. They're just like, we'll build more houses and we'll cut Trudeau's things. And yeah, that's good to get us back to like where we were 5 years ago or 7 years ago, but it's still not good enough. It just truly isn't good enough at this point. And what the comedian's comment here, I'm not sure who he is. His comments here about how people pay more attention to the US because it's more exciting. It's more exciting because there's more resistance. It's more exciting because there's more patriotism and belief in, cohesion among society and getting things going in the right direction and making it a country for the people. We don't have that here. It's just get Trudeau out. Just get him out and we'll be fine. And we don't need to question Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives at all. That's basically the feeling you get. Yet Trudeau has won 3 elections. So when he says restart the countries politically, yeah, you kind of have to do that, but it's impossible. That you're not going to get enough people to stand up and do something about it, especially not in cities. And yes, it's hard to do that in anywhere in the US too, but at least you have someplace to go. At least you have cities in the US you can go. Whereas in Canada, you don't. Name me a city. If anyone in the chat wants to name me a city, talking 100,000 people in Canada is a city. There's not many of them, first of all. Name me a city that isn't ass backwards politically. And I'll be impressed because I don't believe it exists. Let's see what else they were saying.
What they did with the truckers, like, for example, like the way Trudeau just openly labeled them as racist and misogynist. And then when people were donating to this trucker movement, when they were trying to, have this protest, they closed down people's bank accounts who donated. I mean, that is third world country shit.
Yeah.
The fact that they think they can do that in Canada is insane.
Have you seen the ban of news in Canada to where if you're located in Canada, you can't access news outlets now because the news outlets or the social media platforms featuring the news outlets refuse to pay Canada their own fee, essentially. So if I'm in Canada and I go on Instagram and try to go to a news page that's outside of Canadian media, it'll literally say can't view, unavailable in Canada.
So that's not entirely true. It's not that they are not paying this fee to the Canadian government. They're supposed to pay the platforms for their content. So he's right in the sense you go on social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever in Canada, and it says this can't be viewed. I have my thoughts about this. On the surface, yes, it's a terrible government overreach. It doesn't make any sense because these outlets wouldn't be using these social media platforms if it didn't help them, right? It's where everyone goes, so it helps them to feed people into the website. And it sucks because these platforms all have stupid rules, except for mostly Twitter. Twitter's mostly correct now, but Facebook, Instagram, all these other websites all have stupid rules. On the other hand, why don't you just go to the website? This is what I don't understand. Both can be bad, right? I don't have to sit here and say, the government's good in order for the actions of some people to be bad. The government's decision here is whack. It is stupid. But why can't people not just go on it? Why can't you not go on Instagram? Why? Why can't you not go on Facebook? Why can't Facebook be the thing that you don't log on to when you first go? It's not that hard. People used to do it up until probably, I want to say 2015, 2012. People did not go to social media for their news. If you want to go to CNN.com, go ahead. If you want to go to the CBC.ca, go ahead. Go to Infowars.com. Go to Newswars.com. Go to MadMaxWorld.tv. Go to theblaze.com. Read me. Read any given number of people. Go to Timcast. Why do you have to? I get it's convenient, but for the people who are complaining about this, for the most part, are people in the political sphere and read about news online and everything. And that the social media companies suck. That Mark Zuckerberg, he doesn't even want to be involved with news. If he didn't have to, didn't get so many clicks, he wouldn't have it at all. That TikTok is Chinese run and propagandist. All these things. Yet you continue to go on it because you can't stop for some reason. And you say, this is bogus that I can't get my news from here. Then just go somewhere else. I don't understand it. I will continue not to understand it. The government can suck at the same time, but nobody's stopping you from going to NBCnews.com, which we just read from, Fox News, Timcast, Daily Wire, any given number of websites. Just bookmark them across the top of the little browser, and you can click on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time you want to see the news. You're not getting the full story from Instagram's photos anyways. So again, the government can also suck, but you need to not even get off your ass, move your cursor or move your thumbs an extra 15 times, and you'll be able to see what you want to see.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's nuts. That's like China.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like what they do in foreign countries that are run by dictators.
Yeah, dude. The bills, it seems like every couple of weeks there's some new gong show of a bill that everyone says is gonna, wipe out creators off social media or force you to make Canadian content only, which is like this super nebulous thing that you have no idea. Am I only gonna be able to talk about like maple syrup and beavers and shit, or like what's it gonna be? You don't know. So that's a concern as somebody on YouTube, especially. So yeah, but
I've heard concerning things that my podcast at one point in time might not even be available in Canada because of this.
Yeah,
like that's a concern that this could be used in that manner to stop people from accessing podcasts, especially if I'm openly critical of that shithole.
Okay, so very wrong here. I don't know who this guy is again. No shade, but he's very wrong here. And this is probably what happens when you get your information from an Instagram page like Canada Proud or something, who I called out for blatantly lying about this subject, about the podcasters list. Okay, this guy doesn't even know what Canadian content means, which means he's never been involved in Canadian media, which is fine. But don't just go and say, does it have to be about maple syrup? No. Canadian content from a publisher's point of view means you have to produce 35% of your content that you put out there, like a radio station or a TV station. 35% of what you put on the airwaves has to be Canadian content. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean it has to be about maple syrup? Oh my God. Up in the igloos, they're talking about the maple syrup. No, it does not mean that. What it means is there's a few criteria, and I could bring this up. Maybe I should. There's a few criteria that it has to meet in order for it to be Canadian content. It has to be like 2 out of 4 things, I believe. Or maybe it's like 3 out of 5. Produced in Canada, written in Canada, performed in Canada, and, the distributors in Canada. That's what Canadian content means. It doesn't mean it has to be about Canada. So when he talks about hold on, I'm just trying to find what Canadian content is here. I know there's going to be a good, an actual explanation. Let's try cancon.org. So when he comes out on Joe Rogan, he says, every single week there is a new piece of legislation coming out that says something like there's actually not. And I don't like Trudeau at all. I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. But you can't just sit up here and lie because you want clicks, Canada Proud and other people. You just put out this Instagram picture and it's like, oh, you're gonna be on a podcast list. It's just not true. So there isn't a thing coming out every week like this. CanCon is apparently just a Canadian convention. Canadian content that meets the needs and interests of Canada. So what makes it Canadian? Let's try that one. This is from CRTC itself. So it's a point system now, which is insane. It wasn't when I was coming up, but I guess it's a point system now. When I was a young whippersnapper in media, it was like you have to do 3 out of these 5 things for it to be Canadian content. But the CRTC certifies, which is Canada's FCC, a Canadian television program or series that meets the following criteria. Producer must be Canadians responsible for monitoring, making decisions pertaining to the program. Production earns a minimum of 6 out of 10 points based on the key creative functions that are performed by Canadians. At least one of either the director or screenwriter positions and at least one of the 2 lead performers must be Canadian. A minimum of 75% of program expensive and post-production expenses are paid for services by Canadians or Canadian companies. So again, this has nothing to do with the actual content that you're producing. It's the people who are producing the content. You see what I'm saying? So it looks like you need 6 out of 10 points, it says. And you have a Canadian director, you get 2 points. Canadian screenwriter, you get 2 points. First and lead, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what I was involved in was music. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit confused in this. So what it used to be, like I said, performed in Canada, written in Canada, produced in Canada, and the artist being Canadian. I think it was 2 out of those 4. So when I worked at a radio station, it would actually turn out like you get a live performance of Led Zeppelin in Toronto, and you can play that on your radio station, and that's technically Canadian content because it was performed and recorded in Canada. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why they don't have a reason why that makes sense is because it's a live performance. So if you just had a live performance on its own, then it's not, recorded in Canada. You're not recording anything. But since this was a recording of a live performance after the fact, it actually meets the qualifications there. So that's why it gets very confusing. That's why Canada, the government can suck, but also the media companies can suck. So like you get these, and it's usually smaller outlets that want to make a bigger name for themselves and will sacrifice integrity for clicks, but they're out there on the right wing for sure. And Canada Proud is one of them. And I'm not saying anything that I can't prove. They probably still have the post up there, but they made a post. It was untrue about this sort of stuff, and they don't care because the way they posted it, they literally could not have read the actual rules that happened. So that's where that's coming from.
Turn it up, Jordan.